Good morning, and it is a rather wet August the 1st today. It's actually supposed to rain most of the day today, so a lot of what we get done around here will have to be between raindrops. For those of you that are new to the channel, I'm Charles. My wife and I, Noelle, moved out to our 10-acre property a few years back, and we are trying to really convert it into a self-sustaining homestead, and that is definitely, with a full-time job and a lot of kids, that's definitely a challenge to do, but every year we make a little bit more progress, and this is just our opportunity to share it with you and hopefully give some inspiration to others to try to do the same thing. Between our raindrops today, I've got a couple things that I have to get accomplished, one of which is I need to trim up tomato plants. So for those of you that may have watched past couple videos, you know that my wife and I got started very late in getting some of our crops planted here in Ohio. We're actually in Southwest Ohio, and while we had good intent, there was just a lot going on earlier in the year, and we were very late to the game to getting some of this stuff out where it could start growing in a normal schedule. So plants are a little bit dwarfed, running behind, and while we will still get good yield out of some of these, we're definitely not on the same pace as others. So if it looks behind, well, it is. But so I have tomato plants I want to make sure that I keep really aired out, and I'm going to show you kind of what I am looking at there here in just a second. And then I have to go get green beans. So we have a bunch of green beans coming on. We just did a full bowl of these earlier today, and need to get the rest of those before we get wet again. So give me a second and I'll take you to the tomatoes. So living in Ohio, one of the most common problems we have with tomato plants, and this definitely impacted us last year, active roosters, definitely impacted us last year, is blight. So this year I am working really hard to try to make sure we don't have any of our tomato leaves kind of dragging the ground and getting, you know, infections from that. So fewer tomato plants, really letting them air out a little bit more, and trying to keep them off the ground as much as possible. So what I've got are some smaller plants, kind of like this one. They are just starting to touch the ground. I got one over here, kind of doing the same thing. And I'm sure there's a couple more over in all these tomato plants, but I have really been aggressive at trying to turn that back. I have really been aggressive at trying to keep these trimmed back enough to give them a lot of airflow, and it does seem to be paying off. I do have some branches that are starting to kind of grow outward away. But I got some in there that are really starting to look good. Over there are some more. And I've got some transplants I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with. I have space over on this trellis that I have a couple small plants I got to tie up, but I got a lot of openings I need to put in a trellis for these transplants. But I was doing weeds, and it's like, oh, wait. I have tomato plants. They're getting kind of large. I don't know if you can kind of see that tomato plant right in here, and this one right in here. And I've got some more kind of out in here somewhere. I know there's another one right here growing up on the edge. Pretty safe to say those are probably Roma tomato. Either way, I want to make certain that I keep blight down, so whether I transplant those or just let them stay, I am going to trim those up as well today, just to make sure they keep light and airy, stay dry out. So I'm going to put the camera down and get to trimming up just a few of these so I can move on to the next task, which will be green beans. Alright, so this one is going to need pulled up, and that will help a lot, but even with it fully pulled up, I'm gonna have to take off a lot of this down here because it is gonna be on ground very soon. So we're gonna take that off. And I think we're gonna wait on this one until it gets a little bigger. Never hurts to do a little weeding while I'm at it. And then this one's actually starting to look really good. I've got this runner coming out. It is growing, but that is going to go right into the middle of everything. So I am going to take it down. Get rid of those later. And I really need to get this one tied up. So I think that one I can keep. And I won't pull it too tight because I don't want to cut off airflow, but I will give that one some support. And you probably can't see it, but I got one over here that I'm going to go ahead and trim while I'm in here. I do keep a roll of old hay bale twine from where we open them out here handy this time of year. Well, normally earlier. But I do keep it handy so as things start to grow out, I don't have to put that task off for a later time. And I'm just going to string that. Now I start lower on the stem when I hold these up, because what I have found is as I try to pull these up a little bit and straighten them up, has a tendency I'll snap occasionally, where if I take and lace them all the way down, the string tension is more evenly distributed. And whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't know. But that is the way I'm doing it. Feel free to give me your comments and suggestions below. So I'm just going to tie that up. Now I got good airflow going. This one is up off the ground. I'm probably going to have to deal with those, but I don't want to trim them back just yet. Alright, and so this one is the one that I noticed from the other side where it's kind of draping on the ground. I'm going to go ahead and take that down. And I'm just going to go ahead, because this one's coming down. Take that off. And then, just to give that one some support, because it's wanting to kind of go this way, I'm going to go get some twine really quick and tie that up. Oh, and I've got a little runner down here. There we go. Now, once these get taller and they're up on the actual trellis, which is just cattle panel, I won't actually lace them like this. This is just to get them to where they will trellis. And then I'll just tie them loosely to the trellis once they kind of get to that age and height. Leave some extra there. So now that's good and supported. I don't have to worry about storms as they roll in later today, damaging that. These still look pretty good. I've got some really good tomatoes. These are my Roma, and they're really coming on good. This one's going to be another troublesome one for me. As you can see, a lot down here. And as much as I hate to be so aggressive, it's really the best thing for the plant and for myself. And I'm going to actually need to take this one all the way back, which is going to leave it pretty thin. But what I need for it to do is to be growing up here and not down here. You can see I've got some nice Roma growing in there. I think that one is going to just cause airflow issues, so I'm going to leave the sucker and take that branch off. And we're going to leave those. All right. I'm going to put the camera down to give me an opportunity to use both hands, and I'm going to blow through the rest of these tomatoes. Time's ticking, and then we'll move on to the next task. One thing I also noticed when I was doing the tomato plants, in addition to the fact that I have to string up a few more of those and get the cattle panel up, is I have pepper plants that some are staked and some are not. I need to go through and make sure they all are up off the ground as well. I did have a couple of them that looked smaller than they actually are, and that is because they have kind of grown across the ground before headed upward. So that'll be on my list of things I need to come out and do as soon as I can. But I am comfortable for right now that I've minimized the risk of blight by doing what I can and getting them up to keep them well aerated. And most of the tomatoes that are growing look pretty good. Now I can move on to my next task, which is to collect green beans out of our green bean row. Noelle was out earlier picking green beans, so I can only assume I need to start at this end of the row and work my way that way, because we did get a fairly good sized bowl of them. One of the first things that I'm noticing here though is my green bean plants are short. Now, I don't think they're short because of anything that we did. I think they're short because I've got some very hungry deer, because as I look at these, I can see a lot of the tops. Well, first of all, they're kind of all cut down at the same height, but you can definitely see they've been chewed on pretty good out here, which is going to limit some of our beans. So I am going to have to plant a succession crop of these because we're not going to get what we were looking for. But, you know, I need to figure out how to keep the deer out of them too, I guess. A lot of these still look like they could use some time to grow. So I guess I'll weed what I can when I'm out here. We do get pesky ivy plants. I am not really seeing anything lots of weeds though. And honestly, the weeds really aren't that bad. Not given what they could be. Here. So overall, I mean, coming out here and the opportunity to weed this, to let it breathe a little bit better, is not a bad thing. So even though I'm not going to go back with any harvest on green beans today, you know, it was a task worth a while. What it does tell me though is we are definitely going to fall short of the goal on green beans for this year, which what we would like to do is to grow enough green beans or any given, you know, fruit or vegetable to be able to can that and last us for about 2 years. So 1 year we're focusing on a specific vegetable. This year it's green beans, and we're really nice to have been corn. We did not grow our own corn. We did buy some from a local market, but we would like to grow 2 years worth of green beans, can those, put them up, and then next year use that space to focus on growing another food. And just really, instead of, you know, doing a buffet of different varieties every year, try to focus more on doing one thing right or a few things right rather than all the different needs of different plants right every year. What we can see is I don't have enough green beans to do that goal. It just isn't physically possible with what we have growing here. Even if they continue to produce, we'll get probably 6 months, if that, out of what this bed's going to give for us. So the next step is going to be to do a succession planting of green beans, you know, while I can still get them in. Now I looked at take two. Now I looked at pole bean varieties earlier today, and I noticed that I've got some Kentucky blend pole beans, snap green beans, that have a 62-day harvest time. Or no, I take that back. They have a 65-day harvest time. Now this is August the 1st, so that basically 31 days in August, 30 days in September, really puts me right around October the 5th in order to start harvesting. Our first frost here in southern Ohio typically is around October the 15th. That's the date that I go by here, anyway. And that means I'll have about 2 weeks of harvest off the green beans before I lose them to the first frost. And I think that's worth it for the amount of effort that's really put into growing green beans. So I've got 24 feet of cattle panel that my blackberries are on, just adjacent to me here. And I think a great idea is to go ahead and do that 24 feet since we don't have enough blackberries to fill that whole trellis. Great opportunity there is to do the pole beans along that trellis, and that'll get me quite a few more in. And then over in the main garden near the tomatoes and peppers, there's a huge area that we had wanted to grow peanuts in, and then I thought, well, maybe I'll grow corn in it. And just, you know, between timing and lack of focus, we didn't get anything planted there. So the plan would be to go ahead and get some more varieties, and hopefully I can find some of these today at my local TSC. If not, I'll have to order them. But the goal would be to go ahead and literally plant as many of these as I can in that bed to really boost the harvest and give us some left over at the end of season that we can really use to create our own seed stores for next year. That's the next thing, saving seeds. I think there's a real benefit to saving the seeds from the plants that you've grown and then starting another generation off of those particular seeds to really help the plant adapt to the specific climate and the types of soil that you're using. At least that's our plan, that's what I think. And you know, again, encourage comments down below for those that agree or disagree or have any constructive advice that they'd like to give. That's going to do it for me for being out here though. So I'm going to go ahead and take this back and unfortunately disappoint Noelle with an empty basket. But I think tomorrow, maybe the next day, we'll make up for it. How this got here from over there. We're gonna move it. So before I put the shovel in the ground, I thought for sure I was gonna probably have to haul in some soil because it rained today, and I really thought this was just going to be very like muddy and packed and hard, and I am very pleased to say it is not. So it might look a little weird what I was doing, but as I'm weeding this, get that out. As I pulled these sod clumps out, I got some kind of weird growth going in there. I don't know what that's all about. But as I pull these sod clumps out, I can actually break the soil off. It's very easy to work with. And that is going to become my loose soil or fine soil. that I need for planting. I'm just pulling out the growth. You probably saw me rubbing a couple of the dirt clods together, sod, just like that, because it breaks up really easy and just kind of leaves me with the root system. It's a little less work on my part. All right, and then the last thing I'm gonna do for today with these is they need spaced about 3 inches apart, 2 to 3 inches apart. Oh, so let's see. Yeah, 3 inches apart. So the palm of my hand is about 6 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark one. I'm going to drop one about every 6 inches. And then I'm just going to eyeball the in-between. And we're going to call that as accurate as it needs to be. And then for depth, I know I'm about 1 inch up to the first knuckle on my finger. So I'm going to put that in. I had one right in here. Leave that rock right where I left off. That's basically it. I gotta finish this row up. So I got in about 56, give or take, seeds into this particular row before I got down to the to the blackberry plant. And I think that's fine for now. I do want to get the rest of these pole beans in the ground, but I think I'm gonna need to do that in the back where I've got corn stalks growing and let it grow up what we have. I also want to point out that I am working with cattle panel here. So just from a spacing perspective, the other option I would have had was to just know that each one of the spaces or panel sections here, it's spaced about 6 inches apart. So by the time I got to the end, I remembered that, and I was able just to kind of gauge 2 per run on the panel. So that works too. Now, I haven't had this soil tested, and ultimately that's really what I should do if we want to grow blueberries, so I really know what this soil needs. But I want to try an experiment, and that is, these have been mulched really good already. I want to go ahead and weed around them, and then I do have some soil acidifier that is made specifically for blueberries. So since this is the first of the month, it makes it easy to remember when I did it. But I want to come out and I want to add some soil acidifier to a couple of these and then monitor them over the next like 30 days and see if that helps to improve the health of the plant any. I don't know that it's going to make a difference, and I really think this would be a good place to grow blueberries because it drains well. But if the soil is out of whack for it, then what we might do is just expand the strawberry patch to come back here and go ahead and do amendments to another part of the garden area, or find another spot for these blueberries anyway, where we can still grow them. But we really need strawberries more than we need blueberries. It would just be nice to be able to salvage the plants we already have. So this will be an interesting experiment and we can revisit it, but for now I got to get this weeded, and then I'll get probably about a cup. I got to read the instructions. I can't remember if it's 1 cup or 2 of soil acidifier around the base, and we'll see how that does. So the next thing I want to try to get done before it rains is try an experiment with these blueberry plants. Now, we got these about 3 years ago. This one in particular produced about, I don't know, 5 blueberries maybe in its first season. And we have a few, you know, here, right there. And then we went through and we added more kind of in the back here. And really, This one's still doing the best, but as you can see, it's looking very withered, and this isn't just dry weather. This is just kind of the way the plant has been throughout the entire season. All right, and there is the experiment. So this one and this one, I did soil acidifier. And by the way, it is an all organic soil acidifier. So I did stay organic, but those are acidified. I did an acidifier on this one, which I think is a honeyberry. And then I think that one's a huckleberry and that one's a huckleberry, but I could have those backward. Either way, I did not do any soil acidifier in, I think it was that one. So the front, I think, I don't know, huckle or honeyberry, whichever it is, doesn't have soil acidifier and the back one does. So I should be able to see a difference if this works. And then I did soil acidifier on one, but not both. I'm out of focus now. There we go. I did soil acidifier on the back ones, but not the front one of the blueberries in the back. So I should be able to see a difference if it is an acidifier issue. Oh, I can hear that thunder roll. If that's the case and the soil just doesn't have what it needs, should be able to see it. Everything else I did identical. Everything is mulched. Everything was kind of roughed up under the surface of the mulch. And I did that basically to keep the... So for the most part, I did everything the same, except for the ones where I did acidifier and the ones where I didn't. I did rough the soil surface up, and I did that to keep the soil acidifier from running off if we get really heavy rain tonight. I did heavy mulch on all of them. So we're just gonna see if that makes a difference. If for some reason I forget to come out here and show you what's going on with these, drop me a comment in a future video and I will get it included. But for now, we got rain coming in and I have to go pick up some kids anyway, so I think that's gonna do it for me today. Thank you very much, and we will catch you on the next episode of Blue Jay Acres.